Yes, so next company on our virtual growth seminar today is BoMill, Swedish first Nordic-listed company. And with me today, I have the CEO, Andreas Jeppsson, and the Chief Product Manager, Hansi Biedermann. Welcome, both of you. And for the audience, please post your questions and I will forward them to the management. Yes, I hand over the word to you, Andreas and Hansi. Welcome.
Many thanks. So my name is Andreas Jeppsson, so I'm the CEO of BoMill. So with me here today, I have Hansi Biedermann, our product manager. We are living in challenging times where food security and the need to produce healthier food in a sustainable way are of the highest importance. We have an increasing population globally. All the available arable land is already in use, and the grain value chain is inefficient with misuse and losses of grain. On top of this, we have an unfortunate situation here in Europe with an ongoing war that is causing chaos in the global grain trade. With that said, using what is growing in our fields will be more and more important in the future. I would say even crucial. If you look out over a field of grains, by the eye, they all look the same, but in fact, there are big differences. If you look at the picture here to the right, you can see a spike full of kernels, which are, again, by the eye or visually, they look identically. However, even if they are genetically coming from the same seed kernel and grown in the exact same conditions, there are significant differences between each and every kernel on the same spike. A typical example of such difference is the protein content. If you look at the available technology today, quality variations are not considered of, for example, protein content, and often grain batches are misused or they are even wasted. To compensate for this, you need to grow or increase the production of grains. Sorting grain is not something that has been going on for quite a while. And if you do it in an industrial scale, it has been done basically in a similar way for the last 50 or 60 years. And the method that has been done or used is based upon physical differences. However, since the last 30 years or so, there was the introduction of more advanced equipment, what they call optical sorting equipment or color sorters, where also visual differences are considered. However, if you look at an industrial scale, neither of the existing sorting practices can measure and main quality parameters that is required by the grain and the food industry today. Again, typically is protein content or also removing the toxic kernels. But by sorting grain kernels individually on its inner properties, not on what you can see on the outside, but what's actually on the inside, you can use the BoMill technology, and we are sure that it will revolutionize the grain industry globally. So look at the value proposition of BoMill. So BoMill will improve the efficiency of the grain value chain by optimizing the quality and help the grain processes to meet the increasing demand of the food industry. This is especially important from a sustainability standpoint. To improve the profitability of the grain stakeholders by increasing the value of previously overlooked grain batches and partially saving those batches of grain that normally are discarded. Support sustainable farming practices and local production, ensuring what is produced is also used for what it's best suited for. By doing all this, we will meet the emerging consumer trends for healthier product and food safety. With that, I will leave over more technical details about technology to Hansi.
Thank you, Andreas. I will now take you on a short tour through our solution for the future of agriculture. The BoMill solution builds on a 3-step process: singulation, detection, and ejection. The first step aims to singulate each kernel to allow for an accurate measurement. For the second step, we use near-infrared light that we shine through the kernel. And the fact that we shine it through the kernel is very important. The light that has passed through the kernel is then measured and used to predict the inner property or quality of the kernel. We are the only ones who are currently doing this, and due to patent protection, the only ones that are allowed to do this. In the third and final step, the kernel will either get ejected with unprecedented accuracy or pass straight through the machine, effectively creating 2 quality fractions. Simple maybe, but in order to reach industrial capacity, you need to be able to sort over 100,000 kernels per second. That is just shy of 500 million kernels per hour. Now, let's roll back to what Andreas said. Each kernel is different, even coming from the same spike. When we take a closer look, we see that there are still a lot of grain within the batch that meet the criteria for malting. So in this case, we have a batch or a silo of grain that's out of specification for malting. And with our technology, when we run it through the machine, we now have all kernels lined up according to protein content and can simply choose a threshold at which to segregate this barley. Et voila. We have now recovered 80% of what was previously graded as feed. Now, this is only one example. These red grains shown in the distribution could just as well have been toxic grains.
So, sorry, Hansi, there's some noise on the line. Is it, do you have some paper scratching or?
Yeah, it could be.
It could be the paper because you hear it very much on our side.
Yeah, sorry for that.
No, it's all right.
So, and there are numerous more opportunities to be addressed throughout the grain value chain. Key here is focus. Focus on a few segments and master them really well. Currently, the target is set on malting businesses in Latin America and flour milling in Europe. Now you may wonder, why now? What has changed compared to the past for BoMill? Well, 2 things. The industry strive for sustainability, increased regulations on fertilizer and pesticides that introduce new challenges in farming, carbon footprint, meaning how much land was used to produce the food, something previously only a headache for the farmer, but now also for the end producer. But I said 2, right? So what's the second one? Here you have it. BoMill Insight, the next generation of grain quality sorting. Building on our proven expertise in single kernel sorting and over 10 years of experience within the agriculture industry, we are now about to launch a new sorter based on the same unique detector technology, but 5 times faster, reaching up to 15 metric tons per hour and featuring a revolutionary modular and compact design that enables maximum flexibility along with substantially lower investment cost and running cost. On top of that, cost-effective installation, cost-effective operation, and cost-effective upgradability. All in all, this has allowed us to increase the group of customers and significantly lower the time required to reach a return on investment. At the same time, it has allowed us to completely update our patent portfolio. The model will be launched in January, and the first unit will be delivered already in Q1 this year. I give the word back to you, Andreas.
Thank you, Hansi. So, a little bit in general about BoMill and our way moving forward here during the year that is coming. So, first of all, our head office is located in Malmö. We have a very strong team with many years of experience in developing and launching disruptive innovation globally for the grain and the food industry. On the market side and the sales side, we are collaborated with committed distributors in dedicated market. All in all, we have up till now installed around 40 equipments in different areas of Europe and in North America. And we have ever since the foundation of BoMill worked on a patent strategy that we have further developed during the last year, especially when it comes to protecting the new BoMill Insight machine that Hansi mentioned here before. So moving forward, especially with the launch of a new machine, the BoMill Insight, and the fact that we have also worked quite a lot on develop good relationships here during these last years with our distributors and also a couple of different prospect customers. We are very excited about the year that we have ahead of us. We have a very clear business plan in place that is defining what we will focus on. But I would say in a company like ours that is in this phase where we are, it's even more important that we are defining what we are not doing. And we are dedicating our resources on what we have decided upon. So focus here is crucial moving forward. We have defined the customer segments, and we have defined the geographical areas, including a sales process. And the sales process here is important, especially when you're taking a disruptive innovation like ours to market. It's very much about focus and understanding the customer problems and the customer needs. And in many cases, we are not even aware that they have these problems themselves because they are used to do things in a certain way, and we have done it for a long time. That's why it's so important that we have these in-depth discussions and understandings about the problems that the customer has. And as a part of this is, of course, also important to get an understanding what the return of investment will look like for the customer. And normally it varies between 6 to 24 months. Very often it's right in between. Normally in a year's time, you have a good return of investment of a BoMill Insight. That's by experience we have now. Coming back to what Hansi said here before, the machine will be launched in January. To be more exact, it will be on the 26th of January. There will be some launch campaign connected to that. But all in all, I mean, what it's about is that BoMill makes every grain count. It's very much about moving towards having healthier consumer products, well in line with the clean label trend that we see all over the world. And it's about addressing the needs of a grain value chain by reducing the waste and support food security. Especially important today with the turbulence that we see in the grain value chains globally. Again, coming back to the war that we have here in Europe, in the Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. Food security is key. And that we can see is affecting the grain value chain all over the world. We support the demands around sustainability. We have tighter regulations and higher costs when it comes to fertilizers. And there's also regulations, and all this makes it important to reduce the consumption of the use of fertilizers. And that actually leads us to it will be crucial to get better use of a local production and the locally sourced grain. So with that said, that is actually the last comment or the statement from our side. Many thanks for your attention and listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andreas and Hansi. Very interesting. Very interesting. You have a very strong value proposition, as you mentioned before, Andreas, when we met. You have a flexible product already out there to be tested. And you're really focused in your sales process. With that said, there's a couple of questions popping up here. And one of the questions is about, I think, much more about the future, because that goes on your revenue guidance and outlook. And that's probably too early to say something. But we could turn it around with the sales process, you know, Andreas, and the launch in January and all these test facilities. Do you expect to see any sales coming in the second half of 2023?
Yes, we do. I can say that we have actually already received the first order of the new machine, and it will be delivered here in February, March. To a customer here in quite local here in Denmark on Jutland.
Okay, that's the announcement you made earlier on this year.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And of course, we have a sales funnel that makes us confident that we will have, as I said before, we will have a good year ahead of us, and I'm confident that we will have significant sales. And
just to understand it right now, you focus on the flour mills and the brewery sector in two different areas. Are they the typical customer, or are you selling to the wholesalers who collect the grain?
Okay. So okay. Let me start with the flour mills. We can say that we have identified strong business cases with the flour milling industry here in Europe. And then when you say brewery, it's actually what we mean is actually on the malting side, the producers of a malt barley that we're collaborating. Okay, we are adding value all the way actually from, I would say, all the way from the farmers basically, all the way to the breweries. But our counterparts are normally the malt houses that is producing and making the malt barley in general. Now we're generalizing here.
And they are selling to the breweries.
Exactly.
Okay.
In some cases they are integrated. In some other cases they are working as a normal supplier, customer relationship.
And of course they have several breweries, so it makes it easier for you because you can focus on this B2B opportunity at the wholesaler level.
Yeah.
Then there's a question here about the waste percentage, and I know you mentioned it already. But if you look into the conventional technology compared to your technology, because I know you showed the slide, Andreas or Hansi, but maybe you can repeat it. How much do you waste today, and how much of that waste can you actually improve with the test you carried out so far?
Okay, I can let you answer that, Hansi.
Yeah, I don't know exactly which figure. I think it might have been your figure that was referred to, but I should say it varies a lot between different areas. So when we're looking at Latin America, for instance, and there's no good way of registering the loss. But when we talk to key players, looking at a country like Brazil, due to weather conditions, they are, I think it's around 30% of the barley that's being grown for malting is not suitable for malting because of too heavy rains during harvest. And this is something that previously was never considered because it was not a problem of the malting operations or the larger corporations that, or should I say, end producers. It was the problem of the farmer. But now, because of this sustainability aspect that has been introduced into many companies, they realize that the farmland that is used to produce the product is a lot more than they had anticipated now that they are looking at the carbon footprint, for instance.
Interesting. Then there's a question here as well about the market size, and you mentioned that for me before, Andreas, and also how many machines, i.e., what kind of market share do you expect? This is a huge market, but maybe you could elaborate a little on your price offering compared to the existing ones, because everything equal, I know you have a strong value proposition, but your system is actually modular, so you are able to scale up depending on the client and the client's needs.
And that actually comes back to the unique design of equipment. So you're able to, a fully equipped machine will have a capacity of 15 tons per hour.
Yes.
Around. But that is with 8 modules installed in the machine. But if you like, the customer could start with 1 module, and then you have a capacity of around 2 tons an hour. Or they could start with 4, and then they have half of 15 tons, 7.5, 8 tons capacity. So it's very much scalable to the needs of a customer.
Yes. Can you mention anything about prices, or
the selling price for a fully equipped machine is approximately 5.3 million Swedish kronor.
Yeah. And then maybe one last question here. There's a question about what is the single biggest risk for the company right now? That's a good question.
Single biggest risk.
Yeah.
That's
that the world food shortage is going to be resolved by a miracle.
That's a good one.
Actually, it's a good summary.
That's good, Hansi.
Yeah.
And because in terms of finances, you are well equipped as it is of today, Andreas.
We have a very solid ownership base of a company, so we have a good support from our owners, our shareholders.
Yeah. Well, with that said, thanks a lot, Andreas and Hansi, for your great presentation, great slides, and for the audience, thanks a lot for